I pulled out a pack of cigarettes and went to light up, and there were these two guys around 18 or so just walk over and demand my pack. Now if they would have just said something like, "Hey mate, got a spare one?" I probably would have given him one. But he tried to snatch my pack out of my jacket pocket. And as I tried to stop him, he said to his buddy, "Get his wallet." And I just ducking lost it. I grabbed this guy's shirt and just punched him as hard as I could in the nose and mouth a few times. He falls over backwards and starts actually crying. Like, he's 7 and skinned his knee. It was embarrassing and kinda made me feel bad, but that's what happens when you rob a stranger. They break your nose. His friend called me the psycho. Good times. I typed in all caps at a stranger on the internet. Once. But really, the scariest I've ever been was when I was about 7 or 8. This kid who used to bully me, named Dylan, was showing off his new baseball bat. He decided to pick up a rock and hit it like he would hit a baseball. It flies across the street, hitting my 2-year-old sister in the neck. I tackled Dylan and started choking him. His friends pulled me off. But before they could get me completely off, I kicked Dylan in the face, breaking his nose. I have never been so angry, before or since. My sister had to go to the hospital and get several stitches, but she was alright in the end. Edit, I'm glad this is my highest rated comment, and not some comment about poop. When I was in 8th grade, I got in an after school snowball fight with 2 6th grade brothers who did not get along with me. Things escalated a little quickly and one of the kids jumped on my back trying to choke me. I grabbed him by the hair and pulled him over my shoulder and threw him on his back and immediately planted my fist on his face. That ended the fight, but a few minutes later they come back with their babysitter, who proceeds to yell at me about how much trouble I'm about to get in. Duck, that says 8th grade me. I return to the school, put on my best innocent crying face and tell the principal that the kids had jumped me, and when I threw him off he hit his face on a rock and how guilty I was. Long story a little shorter. The kid's mom ends up believing my story over her little sheets and makes me cookies as retribution. The look on this kid's swollen face when he handed me a tin of cookies the next day will always stay with me. TLDR. Punched younger kid in the face. His mom makes me cookies. In high school, I was a shy, quiet outcast that didn't really talk to anyone. A group of girls in my choir class decided that they hated me and always tried to pick on me any chance they got. One time I was entering the restroom as one girl was walking out, and she deliberately jabbed her pencil thin heel into my ankle as she went to walk past. "Watch where you're ducking going, bitch," she said. She went to exit the restroom and I slammed the door full force into her back, causing her to fall onto her face and make her drop and scatter all her sheet all over the hallway. "Learn how to walk in those heels, bitch," I retorted. She tried to beat me up later, but I pulled her hair extensions out before anything happened and made her friends laugh at her. Oh. High school. Edit, I accidentally something. Long ago I was a teenager and hanging with my friend at my favorite park. The park has a railway bridge about 40-50 feet above a shallow creek with a lot of large nasty rocks. Unfortunately it was known for having a few jumpers. My friend and I were by one end of the bridge, sitting on the embankment, when a teen girl walks up. As it was late night, we were wearing all black, as I said teenager, and we quieted up when she walked up. She didn't notice us. She walked up to the end of the bridge and just kept staring down in a way that made me think she was debating jumping. I motioned to my friend and we walked up quietly behind her. "Long way down, isn't it?" I said. From right behind her. She turned around startled and I just went on, looking down, with a 100-mile stare. The worst part is halfway down you realize, oh god, I don't want this, but it's too late and you hit the bottom and then you hit and feel the agony of your body against the rocks for what seems forever. She turns back and looks down. And while she's looking away I grab my friend and we jump back down onto the embankment. So we're just a few feet away. But because of the darkness, the black clothing, and the steep angle, she doesn't see us when she turns back. She looks around frantically for a while and then just runs away. TLDR, I either stopped a suicide or scared the hell out of an innocent girl for no reason. The important thing, however, is that I amused myself. I was thinking about this the other day and still wonder what the duck was going through my mind when I did it. I was about 17. 18 at the time. This was over 5 years ago. I was nearing the end of a relationship which had taken a turn for the worst. A girl I had loved and been gentle with since the beginning, but now she was becoming obsessive. Sometimes violent with me. It came to the point where I was always in the wrong. Anyway, I was driving down a long stretch of road one day with her. She was going on and on at me about something and changing a song on the CD player because it reminded her of something bad and generally not shutting the duck up. I snapped. I began to drive on the wrong side of the road and gradually began to speed up. At the time I knew there was nothing coming the other way, but it was still a stupid thing to do. I started screaming at her, telling her to shut up. I didn't want to hear any more of her stupid ducking remarks anymore. That she was a witch and I'd tell us both if she carried on. Anyway, she shut up. But what the hell was I thinking? I was lying on my bed the other day, the image of that happening in my mind, and feeling depressed as duck about it. I eventually snapped out of it, but it shows how far guilt is willing to follow you. Even after 5 years. When I was in 4th grade, I remember being at my friend's house and getting so irritated with her that I took duct tape and wrapped it around her head about 4 times. I'm talking around her hair. Everything. I just totally lost it. I couldn't even believe I had done it. I'll do it in short. I boxed since I was 6. When I was 18 I beat up a guy so that he can only see 20% on his left eye. Has epilepsy. Walks with a cane and has only 4 of his real teeth still in his mouth. I broke his jaw, his left eye socket and 7 of his ribs. Notice, I know him all my life. He's always been a brick and always violent women, and this was not the first time he got beat up for it. He had a fight with his mother. Beat up her and his little sister. Went out. Got drunk as duck and raped my best friend, breaking her jaw in the process. I sat 11 months in Lipoglava, Croatia. Google it, one of the Balkans' worst prisons. And he never sat a day in his life for the shit he did. And to all those down voters out there, I'd do it again. Kicked an old man out of my house because he was massaging a passed out drunk girl's back on my couch. He came back after he left and said he forgot his keys. When I turned around he sucker punched me in the head twice. So I choked him, pummeled his face, and beat him repeatedly with a police baton. Very abridged story. Edit, unabridged. I was 7 or 8 years old, and I was walking home from school with my friend Laura. Laura was from Vietnam. She and her family had recently moved here. I was a pretty reserved, quiet, nerdy kid. So Laura and I kinda stuck together. A block or 2 after we left school, I got the feeling we were being followed. A few minutes later, these 2 popular 5th grade girls came up behind us and started taunting Laura. They were pulling their eyelids to make them squinty and yelling shit like, "Ching chong ching. Go back to your country." This made Laura cry. Really hard. Seeing her so upset made something inside of me snap. It was the angriest I think I've ever been in my entire life. And I'm 21 now. I don't remember exactly what happened right after that. But I remember getting calm and looking down at one of the 5th graders. She was screaming and crying and her entire face was covered with blood. I think 1 or 2 teeth were missing. I'm also pretty sure she had to go to the hospital. From that point on, no one ever messed with Laura again. We didn't really stay friends through middle school and beyond. But I heard she's working on her master's degree at the moment. TLDR, blacked out from anger and beat the shit out of another kid when I was in 2nd grade. Female here. I was at a dance in college with some of my girlfriends just having a good time. I had a guy come up to me and just started grinding on me. I politely and verbally declined, but he wouldn't back off. So I just shouted over the music, "I've got a big dick." Dude instantly backed off. Mission accomplished. Back in high school, we were playing soccer in the gym. Most of the Brazilian guys were on the other team. I had braces at the time. I tried to steal the ball from a really skilled player. He tried to kick the ball over me and ended up kicking me in the mouth. I didn't even flinch. When he stopped to see if I was okay, I took the ball and started to charge the goal. The goalie was this short but scrappy girl. She looked at me and then her face contorted with disgust. I shouted at her move and then I growled through my teeth at her. I saw the goosebumps shiver up her spine as her eyes bulged in terror. She was frozen still and I passed the ball to another player for the goal. I went off to the bathroom to clean all of my blood off of me. While I was growling at her, I had been bleeding profusely from my mouth. From her perspective, it probably looked like I had taken a bite out of someone on the other side of the field and that she was next. The stupidest and scariest thing I ever did was for my boss. She had been stalked by this guy for a while. This can happen when you work retail. But he was going all out. He was following her to bars, etc. She was pretty terrified. And then he went off and applied to work at the store. Clearly, she wasn't going to hire him. But I asked for the number. I called him up and told him I was the RM and wanted to give him an interview. He came in. I clocked out. I went to the back and took a long waterfall hanger, those long ones with the heavy ribs to hold t-shirts on, and shoved it up my sleeve. When we got outside I told him she was my girlfriend. He said this was cool. But I told him that no it wasn't. Because I knew he'd been following her. I shoved him against the wall and told him if he so much as looked at her again or tried to breathe the same air as her again, I would make the hanger his new boyfriend. He just sort of nodded. Terrified, I told him to leave. And when he walked off, I shouted that he wasn't going fast enough. Also, I'm a girl. I don't really know how scary I was, but it is definitely a story that makes me feel like a badass. I was out at the bars and this drunk asshole knocks into me. He mumbled something and walks away. I didn't really care because he was drunk. Well, next thing I know he is back and trying to apologize for bumping into me, which consisted of him grabbing my ass. My response was to grab his wrist with a death grip, force him backwards, and tell him if you touch me again I will break your ducking hand. Understand? And repeat that until I get a head nod of acknowledgement. This all coming from my 5 feet 2 inches self. TLDR, drunk guy gropes me and I threaten to break his hand. No white knight needed. I was very drunk at one of my own large college parties at my old house. Some random one-off douchebag runs into me and tells me to watch where I'm going. Through a combination of having a bad day, this being my house, and having others egg me on, I ended up getting myself angry enough to throw this kid out. I'm a large fellow, about 6 feet 3 inches and 260, and this guy is around 5 minutes and 11 seconds and maybe 200. So I walk up to him from behind, grab his shoulder and spin him so he's facing me. He gets a WTF look on his face as I grab him by his neck and pick him up. It's in the backyard. So I walk him, dangling by his neck, to the gate exit and throw him out. Yelling and words were exchanged before he and his friends left tails between their legs. I still feel bad about it. He really didn't deserve anything more than a go duck yourself, and I'm totally not a violent person. But such is life. I did end up running into one of his friends on campus and telling him to apologize for me. Who knows if that ever happened. Not quite as exciting as most of the stories here. But about a year ago I was in a next subway station late at night. It was empty except for one guy. When I came down the stairs I saw the guy standing there with his back to me. So being a drop tipsy I decided to sneak up behind him while he was playing on his phone. I got right up behind him. Somehow got my mouth right next to his ear without him noticing. And whispered menacingly, "You think nobody knows? But I do." Dude dropped his phone and went more pale than anyone I've ever seen. I've seen a dead body that wasn't as pale as this guy. I somehow caught the phone, handed it back to him, shook my head slowly in mock disgust, and walked to the other end of the platform. That guy didn't take his eyes off me until I got off the train a few stops later. When my son was about 2 months old, I was driving home from getting a few groceries. A girl who looked about 17 or 18 ran a red light and almost hit the side of my car my son's car seat was on. I ended up turning my car around to follow her. She pulled over about 5 minutes after I began following her. I got out of my car and walked over to her. Hey. You really need to be more careful driving. You almost hit me. So my newborn son is in my car. You almost hit us. That could have killed him. I don't care. I had never punched someone out of anger before that and I never have since. I don't even know where it all came from. I'm female. Relatively small. And generally a passive person. She got a bloody nose and cried. It's ironic that I'm posting this immediately after a comment about how serious an offense assault is. Insulted a person in the comment of a YouTube video. I play a lot of rugby. I generally play on the wing or in the center and very few things bring me more joy than getting the ball in space and going for a run. When I am in this situation I frequently laugh as I run and I am told it is terrifying. Clattering into people is fun.